I'm gonna be totally honest with you. We love our RV. After over 5.5 years of full-time travel, I would definitely very seriously consider buying it again. And I think the reason that we loved it is because there are some very important questions that I asked before we even made the purchase. I've got 8 questions that anyone who's buying an RV for the first time is gonna wanna ask before you sign on that dotted line. The first question you wanna ask yourself is, what type of rig fits me? There are a lot of different types of RVs, but they're sort of the main categories, and I'm just going to talk about those. So let's sort of hop through each of those and what the pros and the cons are for each of them. First, let's talk about the travel trailer, which is what we have. And the pros of it are it is reasonably priced, it is the most beginner friendly, and there are a ton of floor plans that you can get with the travel trailer. The cons are it definitely takes a lot more energy and time to set up and break down. Next is the fifth wheel. It does give you a lot more space, and because it is larger, it is a lot more stable. So the fifth wheel is definitely an option. It has definitely some good pros. It also has some cons. You do have to have a truck bed that you're able to put a hitch in, so you can't use your truck bed for any kind of storage, and you have to make sure you have that truck. It is also a lot heavier and larger, so there's fewer places where you can take it and park it, and it does come with more expenses. But there are a lot of fifth wheels out there, and people seem to love them if they have them. Next is the Class C. It is the most drivable. It also is very family friendly because it does have that bunk bed over the cab, which leaves you a lot of extra space. Class Cs are wonderful. There are a couple of cons, and that is because of that cab, you do lose a lot of space. You also have more expenses because you have that second engine, which means then higher insurance, higher maintenance costs. You have to have it serviced. So there are some cons. Anytime you buy any kind of RV that has a second engine, there's definitely gonna be more expenses with that. Next is the Class A, or the big buses, and the pros are definitely that you have a ton of space. That is where you're gonna get your maximum amount of space. If you are really looking to have a lot of space and you have a lot of things and a lot of storage, the Class A is going to be your better option for sure. I also do find that the finishes inside Class A's are much nicer because weight isn't really an issue. They can use real wood and much higher quality materials. You can also get cheap ones, don't get me wrong. The cons are they do have the biggest learning curve for learning how to drive them. You are driving a bus and they are a little bit more hard to park. I think fifth wheels are harder to park, but I think it just depends on what you're used to. They do require a little bit more effort, a little bit more patience in learning how to drive them. And so if you've never driven an RV before, maybe a big bus Class A might not be the first best option, but you do you. And also with that Class A is so many costs. You do have another engine you have to maintain. They usually have 2, 3, 4 slide outs, and the slide outs do cost money. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you have money for those. And because it is so large and heavy, you are just gonna have more costs in general between expenses of gas, insurance, maintenance, all of that. It is gonna cost you more. And the last is the Class B, or the van, which is going to be the most nimble vehicle to drive, the smallest, the easiest. It is also great for solo travel. If you're looking to solo travel, it is very solo friendly. There are definitely a lot of perks to a van or a Class B. You can kind of park it just about anywhere. There are also some cons, and those are obviously you're gonna have minimal space as well as smaller tanks. So if you do have a van that has freshwater and gray water and maybe even a black water tank, they are gonna be much smaller than any of the other options, so you're gonna be having to empty them quite a bit more. I'm not gonna talk super deep about budget because all of these vehicles can be very inexpensive or very expensive to purchase. Once you think you know what type of rig you want based on your travel style and your budget, then you can get a little bit deeper into it with this next question. What size or length is good for a beginner? The rule of thumb is bigger is not always better when it comes to RVs. Yes, you might have more space, you probably don't need it, but the bigger your RV, the harder it is to maneuver, drive around, back into spots. There's also fewer places where you can park it, and so you just want to make sure that you're really erring on the side of being a little bit too small versus a little bit too big. Of course you want to find that Goldilocks zone, but don't automatically think that because you have a lot of stuff or because you want to be able to have a lot of space that you automatically need a really big RV. Your floor plan is going to be the most important thing that you do, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. We settled on the 26 foot, which is a little bit bigger than I had originally wanted. I wanted a 22 foot, but we couldn't find everything that we wanted in that 22 feet, so we had to go up a few feet, and honestly, 26 feet is perfect for us. There's plenty of space for 2. We have 1 slide out, and we're able to do everything that we need inside that RV. but it's not really about the size, it's about the floor plan and making sure that floor plan is going to work for you. You also want to keep in mind that when you're buying for what you're actually going to be using it for. If you're really just looking to be a weekend warrior, take it out a few weeks out of the year, a few weekends here and there, you can definitely have a smaller rig because you don't need to carry everything you own with you. If you're looking full-time, don't automatically think you're going to need a big Class A bus. Really think about what you absolutely need to have, put some stuff in storage that you don't need right now, and don't worry about trying to take every single thing that you own with you, because honestly, the more stuff you have inside your RV, the tighter it is, the more uncomfortable it is, and you have no room to grow inside there. And so just a little reminder, if you are wanting to do national parks inside the US, a 25-foot long RV, that's full length, we're 50 feet with our truck and trailer hooked up, so we wouldn't fit, but a 25-foot long from bumper to bumper RV is going to fit inside 93% of the US national parks. So keep that in mind, because I know that's something that a lot of people enjoy traveling and doing, and so 25 feet is going to be your magic number. By this point, you should start having a little bit of an idea of what type of RV you're wanting to get, but the next one is the most important question you want to ask, and it is the one you want to spend the most time contemplating. And that question is, what does my daily routine look like? This is where floor plan becomes a really important factor in what you're choosing. You don't want to be asking, is this a nice RV? Is it pretty? You want to be asking, does this fit into my Tuesday lifestyle, into my Sunday routine? Those are the questions that you're going to want to be asking, and that's going to be the one that you want to ponder the most anytime you're choosing an RV. Really spend some time inside the RV. Think about your day routine. What does your daily lifestyle look like? If you've got a partner that you travel with, you probably have a routine of how you two, or maybe you've got a family, how you 4 or 6, however many you are, you've got a little bit of a routine. And so really spend some time inside that RV going through your daily life and figuring out if it's going to have everything that you need. You also want to think about things like, if you love your morning coffee and you want to make sure that you have that morning coffee every day, you need to make sure that there is space on the counter for that coffee maker that's not going to be in the way, that you're not having to take it out every single morning just to be able to have your morning coffee. So really think about what your daily routine is like and spend a good amount of time inside that RV playing house and testing out whether or not that floor plan is going to work for you and your family, your significant other, or just you if you're solo. But that is the most important thing you want to spend time on, is that daily routine and that floor plan. Once you're just about settled into your daily routine, your floor plan, your budget, all of that, then you're going to be working on this next question. What type of secondary vehicle are you going to need? You're probably most likely going to definitely need one unless you have a Class B van. You're going to either have a vehicle to tow with, like we do, or you're going to have a vehicle to be towed. So once you have chosen your rig, then you want to decide on what that second vehicle is going to be. And there's a couple of numbers you really want to pay attention to, and that is tow capacity and payload. We have a travel trailer, so we have a tow behind, which means tow capacity is important for us. We need to make sure that our truck, our vehicle, can tow the weight of the RV behind it. Payload is different. That is for a fifth wheel, because a fifth wheel's weight is going to be on the bed of the truck. And so if you are buying a fifth wheel, you need to be paying attention to the payload of your truck. So make sure that if between those two, you're really paying attention to what those numbers are, and do not try and skirt around them and have a little bit more weight. We could probably tow with an F-150, but we went with the 250 just to make sure we weren't taxing our engine, especially if we were going up hills and things like that. And so do not ignore those tow capacity and those payload numbers, because you need to make sure that you're paying attention depending on which kind of RV you're going to get. Now, if you're doing a tow behind, obviously you just need to make sure your vehicle is towable. Otherwise, you're going to need to get a little trailer, which I don't recommend. Having a RV, a trailer, and a vehicle is kind of annoying, and I see sometimes people not being able to park all three inside of an RV site. So I highly recommend that if you are going to do a tow behind vehicle, that you're going to have something like a little grocery getter, something to take you out and around town, which I highly recommend. Make sure that it is actually just a towable vehicle. It will make your life a lot easier. The next question is one that a lot of people don't even consider, and that is new or used. There are definitely perks to both. I want to make it clear that buying a new RV does not mean it's going to be problem-free. There are still going to be issues, and we can definitely attest to that. It is not uncommon for a lot of new RVs to be in the repair bay, because there are a lot of issues that have to be worked out, especially when you're in that first year of warranty. If you're buying used, you definitely don't know how well that RV has been taken care of, but it probably has already been out on its shakedown trips and had a lot of those kinks worked out. And so whether you buy new or used, it is highly recommended that you get an inspector out there to check it out. Do not use the RV dealership's inspector, hire your own. We didn't use an inspector because my dad has been RVing since the 70s and we had him with us and he was able to give it a full once-over look. There are, of course, still going to be things that happen. That's just RV life. And so even with the best inspector and the most thorough inspection, there's still going to be some issues that happen, but it is a little bit of peace of mind, whether you're buying new or used, having that inspector take a look at it and making sure that there's no huge red flags that you really need to be aware of before signing on that dotted line. Next, we're going to talk about cost. I have put this closer to the end because there are so many price ranges for all of the vehicles, and there are costs that you need to think about that don't just have to do with the actual purchase price of your RV, but all of the other costs included. So here's your next question. What will this actually cost me? It would be really great if the sticker price was all it was going to cost you and you knew you were good to go, that was all you're going to have to spend, but the reality is it's not. Depending on what kind of RV you get, you're going to have fuel prices, whether you've got a tow vehicle fuel prices or a Class A bus fuel prices. Those are going to be fluctuating a lot. You're going to have maintenance costs, and of course, the bigger the RV or if you have an engine, those are going to be costs you're going to want to make sure that you're aware of. And the other thing that you want to check out is insurance costs. Of course, ours is very, very cheap because we don't have that second motor. Having that second engine really does cause a lot of costs to go up. That's okay. It's totally doable. It's just one of those things that you really want to be aware of. And so check with your insurance company, give them a call, let them know a few of the details of what you're looking at and find out what the difference in pricing is for insurance. You also want to make sure that before you walk onto any dealership lot or you talk with anybody selling used, you want to make sure that you know what your numbers are and what that RV is truly worth market value, because they are all going to try to get the most amount of money out of you as possible. So really have those numbers ready to go so that you really know what your bottom dollar is and what your number is, so that you can really try to stick to that. And the last thing with cost and dealerships is you do not want to let them talk you into purchasing an essentials package. This is a package that is going to have your sewer hose, your water hose, some of those essentials that you absolutely do need, but they are going to mark them up a very high amount. You can buy them for much cheaper at Walmart or on Amazon, and you're also going to be able to get better quality. So when you are doing that negotiating deal and they try to throw in an essentials package, don't take it, don't fall for it, just buy that stuff on your own. You'll save yourself hundreds of dollars and buy much better quality items. I've got 2 questions left for you. The next one is something that you might consider, and that is, should I rent before I buy? And that's a really legit question, and if you've never had the RV lifestyle experience before, giving a rental for a week or 2 is probably not a bad idea. I grew up RVing, so I knew a lot about what it was about, but if you've never RV'd before, rent something, rent what you think you might want to actually purchase and take it out for a couple of weeks and give it a try. RV rentals tend to get a little bit beat up, and so don't pay attention to the quality of it because it's probably been beat up a little bit. Pay attention to the floor plan. Is that floor plan working for you? And when you take it out, decide, are you comfortable driving it? Check out the RV lifestyle. Go to an RV park and decide whether or not you like that RV community culture. I'm here to tell you I love it. I think it's an amazing community, but give it a try. See if this is really something that you're going to enjoy, and then really pay attention to how much time it takes you to get parked, to get set up, get comfortable, and then how comfortable are you in that RV. Again, floor plan is going to be your number one thing you want to be paying attention to. Are you able to move around comfortably, do the things that you enjoy comfortably? Because before you purchase, that floor plan is going to be the most important thing that you have going for you and making sure that that's going to work for you. I also recommend that if you do rent, do not try to do a million things in a week. Pick 1 or 2 places. If you've only got a week of rental, pick 1 or 2 places that you're going to go and sort of get settled in and test it out, because in truth, in RVing, you're not going to be moving a whole bunch. Sometimes you might be if you're trying to get from point A to point B, but you really want to make sure that you're not spending your entire time RVing doing all of the RV stuff, breaking down, setting up, emptying tanks, all of that. So make sure that if you do rent for at least a week. I recommend 2, and only pick 1 or 2 places to go and really get a feel for that layout, that lifestyle, and see if it's going to be something that you enjoy. Last question, question number 8, is one you definitely want to ask, and that is, where are you going to keep it when you are not using it? You want to make sure that you know where you're going to store your RV if you are not using it full time. Do you have space in your backyard? Do you have to pay for a rental? How much is that going to cost? How far away is it? How easily accessible is it? You need to make sure that if you're not doing this full time, you know exactly where you're going to keep it during the off time. And if you are doing it full time, you need to make sure you have a plan of where you're going to keep it should something come up, like, I don't know, a world pandemic, or maybe somebody gets sick and you just need to come off the road for a while. You just want to make sure that you have a little bit of a plan in place on where you're going to store it, because the larger the rig, the more difficult it is to find a place to store, and also the more expensive it's going to be. So you want to make sure that you have that into your costs and you're not buying something that you're not able to store easily. I do hope this video helped you. I wish you the best of luck when you're going out and making your purchase, and just keep in mind, floor plan, number one thing you want to pay attention to. All right, if you take anything from this video, it's that. Your floor plan is the most important. I'm Krista. I'm on a quest to check off 1,000 bucket list adventures. A lot of those adventures are going to be happening in this RV, but I'm also going to be traveling internationally and doing some solo travel. This series is going to be 30 episodes long every Saturday, and I'm going to be covering everything from black tanks to RV parks to boondocking and all of that stuff. So you're going to want to make sure you please click subscribe, because I'm going to be covering just about everything you need to know about RVing. But of course, you might still have questions, and if you do, leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them. I answer all my questions, and I am more than happy to help you find the right rig that's going to work for you, because I love this lifestyle. I want you to love this lifestyle, but I also don't want you to go in blinded or with rose-colored goggles on thinking that it's going to be this wonderful, beautiful vacation every day of the year, because if you watch any of my videos, you know that it is not. There is a lot of stuff that comes up, and that's okay. It's just part of the life. I will see you on the next adventure. Bye. Oh, it's another spider. I'm so tired of bugs.